Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 74 of the Hammer Territory podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you deep into the night here on a Sunday. It's officially September. I'm joined, as I always am, by Scott Coleman. Scott, it was not the series that we wanted to be talking about on a Sunday night.
Hey, Brad. No, it certainly was not. A very frustrating last couple of games here in Philadelphia. And very quickly now, there's only 4 weeks left in the regular season. So this time in 4 weeks, unless there is, I don't even think they do like the game 163 anymore. I think there's like a mathematical or computer tiebreaker. But this time, 4 weeks from right now, as of recording, the regular season is over, and the Braves' playoff chances are very much in the balance right now.
Yes, that is very much the case. And if you are a new listener, we should tell you at the top of the podcast, we are part of the Foul Territory Network. Please subscribe, rate, review, etc. Just search out the Hammer Territory podcast on your favorite podcast platforms. That includes all the audio places like Apple and Spotify and Overcast. We're also on YouTube, which we've been told to kind of push that out and try to get us a little bit more in terms of subscribers over there. So check us out on that platform. But, we're coming to you Labor Day weekend. It's Sunday evening, and the 4-game series in Philadelphia is finished. We should also plug that there was a new episode from our colleagues, Sean Coleman and Stephen Tolbert, on Friday night. So they focused heavily on the first 2 games of the series. We will not relitigate all of that because that was the reason why that podcast happened. But big picture, you mentioned it before, 4 games to go, 4 weeks to go in the season, 25 games remaining in the season, and to lose 3 of 4 in Philadelphia was not what the doctor ordered. I will just ask you this, Scott, because it's the topic that we're all talking about right now. Big picture topic anyway. Is the NL East division race over? Because coming into the series, we did kind of talk about this. They needed to kind of win it or at least hold steady, and they did not do that, losing 3 of 4.
Yeah, with 4 weeks to go, the Braves are now 7 back in the East. Mathematically, is it over? No, of course not. And stranger things have happened. But especially the fact that now the Braves are done with the Phillies head-to-head in the regular season, it is very, very difficult to make up that kind of ground without the benefit of having a series, which really, to me, I think Sean and Steven talked about this the other night, but it feels like Major League Baseball needs to figure out a way, even with the balanced schedule, to have a way for division rivals, especially good division rivals, to play each other later in the calendar than September 1st. What are we doing here? Even the Braves and the Mets only have 1 series left against each other. It's very odd. But to answer your question, I would give it like a 98% chance that Philadelphia takes it. And obviously something would have to happen pretty drastic in the next 7 to 10 days if the Braves are going to have any prayer of even trying to make it interesting, let alone overtaking Philly.
We agree there, and one of the bits of this show is that we're not going to be the hot take folks that are going to declare things over. At the same time, I think you're right. It's like 5% or less. I have not seen an updated Fangraphs model or anything like that about what happens now with 7 games back and 25 to go. But the Braves do have the tiebreaker, which does maybe matter. But even then, you probably got to go realistically something like 19-6, and then you hope that Philadelphia is 500, and we'll see. But anyway, it's not the nail in the coffin, but certainly it drastically decreases the chances of winning the division. And because you lost 3 games out of 4, the wildcard race is far from secure at this point in time. In fact, as we record this on Sunday evening, the Braves are only 1 game up on the Mets now. And that is definitely back in some real peril after it was, I think, up to 3 or 3.5 games only a few days ago. So really not great stuff across the board. Do you want to briefly touch on what happened Thursday and Friday? Because they split the first 2 games of the series. I know you and I always enjoy these conversations about Brian Snitker's managing, but it was a Brian Snitker heavy series for better, and I would argue for worse. And at this point in time, and Thursday was kind of the one where I know it was covered by Stephen and Sean, but do you want to weigh in on the Snitker of it all? Because it's going to come back later on in this podcast about Sunday's game.
Do I want to weigh in? No, but I guess I will. Let me say this right off the jump. Brian Snitker only has so much in his hands and only so much control over what happens on a baseball field. He cannot throw the pitch. He cannot swing the bat. He cannot make the play defensively. But it is very much his job to put the injury-depleted Atlanta Braves in the best position possible to win. And when you manage the bullpen, really, I mean, the whole weekend, I felt like Brian Snitker's bullpen management was pretty awful. And especially Thursday night, leaving Charlie Morton out there for an obvious situation where he should have come out of the game against a lefty and brought in Dylan Lee. What was especially frustrating about the loss on Thursday is you knew that Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler were waiting this weekend. And you also did not have the benefit of Chris Sale starting this weekend. So it really felt like Thursday and Friday nights were the Braves' best chances, at least on paper, to win a couple of games. And as we outlined a couple of days ago on the show, if the Braves could at least split the series, if you go 2-2, the division is still within grasp. And obviously, you want to keep winning as many games as you can in the wild card. But Thursday's loss, especially, was, for my money, the most frustrating of the three losses because the Braves had that game won. They should have won. And it really was just awful bullpen management as the reason the team blew I believe, a 4-0 lead.
Right. We're going to dig into the games, of course, with a little bit more depth on Saturday and especially on Sunday. But you're right. I mean, I tweeted this before we started the show tonight. The simple big picture take is that you cannot blow two different multi-run leads in the same series when you don't have any margin for error overall. And that's what happened with the Braves. And I do think that Sunday's game was a little bit less frustrating. It was certainly frustrating. There was a lot to get into about Sunday's game, but and maybe if Thursday's game didn't happen, we would be even more frustrated by Sunday's game. But Thursday just setting the tone for the whole thing, and a game that they certainly should have won, and the mistakes made there. And I don't like to appeal to authority this way, but I reached out to some people that cover baseball that were not emotionally attached in the way that we might be. And to a person, I almost said to a man, but I also reached out to a couple of women that cover baseball, and absolutely not one person that I could find that covers the sport thought that handling the way that inning went down with Morton and Number, et cetera, was the right decision. Like, it doesn't mean it's right. It's just what it is. Like, no one thought that was a good idea. Fan base mostly too. Of course, in the fan base you can find somebody that liked the decision, but yeah, that was tough. And then if you want to go through line by line, we'll try not to do that all tonight about Sunday's game, but I have a list, Scott. I don't know about you. I have a list of things for Sunday too. So you're right, though. I'm glad you led with what you led with, because what we don't want to do is, we pride ourselves in being level-headed on this stuff and kind of breaking it down rationally. And what we're not going to do is say that everything's always on Snitker, et cetera. Thursday, I think it was pretty heavy on that one. But you're right. Like, the big picture again, like, they have to score runs. So while we're going to get into some stuff that happened on Sunday, the Braves scored 2 runs in 20 plus innings over the weekend, and there's nothing that you can really do about that. Like, the margin of error is 0 when you can't score runs. And yeah, there was pitching decisions and all that stuff, but you got to score, and the Braves haven't been able to score.
We're looking for real ways to boost our nutrition and just found a protein shake that actually tastes amazing. It's called Orgain, and it's been a game changer.
Orgain is the leader in real protein-powered nutrition that understands that being good for you doesn't have to taste bad. It's the organic ingredients we're looking for, but I don't want a grainy battle with my taste buds every day. You know what I'm saying? It's giving smooth milkshake vibes. That's Orgain, and they have a brand new 30-gram complete protein shake that offers protein-packed real nutrition designed to satisfy your cravings without all the sugar.
It gives me energy, provides muscle support, and helps manage hunger too. It's also made without soy ingredients and made with no artificial flavors or sweeteners. Orgain 30-gram protein shakes are available at Costco and Orgain.com. If you want to get in on the delicious protein-packed nutrition today, head to Orgain.com/foul and use the code FOUL for 20% off your order. Once again, that's Orgain.com/foul for 20% off. And make sure you use promo code FOUL so they know FT sent you.
And to me, this weekend felt like the first time the Braves just absolutely missed Austin Riley. And obviously, Acuña's been out for months now, but to me, it just felt like the talent disparity between these two clubs was on full display. And the Phillies were feeding off of their crowd, which was very good all 4 nights. And the Braves just felt flat. And at the same time, I mean, I know we outlined this on social media on Sunday night here, but I mean, just look at some of the players the Braves were really having to rely on in some of arguably their biggest moments of the whole season. Guys like Luke Williams getting at bats, Orlando Arcia, who is so bad offensively, Eli White, Adam Duvall. It is challenging to consistently win baseball games when the injuries have lowered your margin for error. And then when you do things like maybe not manage a bullpen super well, or just be on the wrong side of, there was that would-be double play ball the Braves couldn't quite turn in the 11th inning on Sunday night. It's so close on some of these plays, just, play by play, that ultimately decide wins and losses. And to me, it just felt like the Braves just didn't have the juice. And really, that's just more injury related than anything else.
Right. And, we'll get into this again later on, but in the couple of big moments on Sunday, it was a good encapsulation of it, like you point out. Huge plate appearances from guys that you just don't want up there. I mean, and going back to the inexplicable managing decisions, like you take out Jorge Soler, who's one of your best hitters in the 8th inning on defense in a tie game, and that leads to Eli White, who they don't want to hit, so that leads to Adam Duvall, and then you have to hit Luke Williams because you took out Gio Urshela earlier in the game, and like there's nobody to put in for him. And anyway, there was a lot going on, but you're right, the talent disparity is evident. And look, I think that we could be objective and say out loud that the current version of the Braves is not better than the current version of the Phillies. It's just not talent-wise. No. Like, I mean, it's not. We don't enjoy saying that, but when you factor in who's available for both teams, the Phillies are the better team, and they're playing at home and all those things. Like obviously the leverage, the Braves needed it more than the Phillies did. But what you said is an absolutely accurate reminder of like there is a talent disparity, unfortunately, for what the Braves are dealing with right now, and the absence of Riley makes it even worse. And the pitching was really good again. Like big picture, the pitching was pretty good over the weekend. It's been really good all season long. But when your lineup is this lineup, you're going to have tight margins, and that means you're going to lose some maddening games. And it all kind of came to a head.
Yeah, it did. And I mean, a tip of the cap to the bullpen, which, I mean, they pitched their asses off tonight.
It was great again tonight. Yeah, I was going to say Sunday night. I mean, I know you lose the game, quote unquote, with a reliever on the mound when you go to extra innings, but you couldn't possibly have asked for better from the bullpen, including even obviously one bad pitch from Grant Holmes, and we'll come back to that. But the rest of the guys were absolutely lights out. But you can't. You got to score. You got to score a run, Scott. In the end.
I mean, that is the end all be all, right? Spoiler break. This is the hard hitting analysis that folks tune in for. You have to score some damn runs. And yeah, I mean, again, we'll transition to the weekend here, Brad.
We'll move forward.
But I mean, the pitching staff did its absolute job really in all 4 games. All 4 nights, the Braves had a great chance to win because of what the pitching has done. And to only come away with 1 win, despite the efforts of the starters and the relievers, really is deflating.
It is. And, they only give up the most runs they allowed in the entire series was 5. If you would have told me that coming into the series, Scott, that the Phillies would never score more than 5 runs, you feel pretty good about that in a vacuum. And in fact, they only scored more than 3 runs once in the series. That usually means like you got to at least get a couple of these games, and they got one of them on a 7-run game on Friday. But you're right, the pitching was not the concern over the weekend. In fact, let's just get to this now. There's this crazy stat that is still ongoing after today that we can circle back to probably, but the Braves did not have 21 consecutive games/starts from their rotation while allowing 3 runs or less from the starter. 21 consecutive games. It's almost an entire month without a single blow up from a starting pitcher. That's a franchise record for a franchise that's had some pretty good pitching in its day.
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing run to go 3 full weeks without a single blow up from any of your starters. Again, I think it's almost like a giant tease at this point, Brad, because power pitching tends to win in October. And I think just in the back of all of our minds, we know that if this team can just somehow scrape and claw their way into a playoff series, we know with how good the starting pitching has been and how good the top end of the bullpen have been, it just feels like a tease, because you're like, you can tell yourself a story where the Braves ride this pitching staff to a deep run in October. But at the same time, when you tune in every night and it feels like scoring more than 2 runs is this giant challenge more times than not, it really is frustrating. And you just hope that maybe as the Braves get a little healthier in September and the pitching continues to do its thing that it's really done all season long, that it will be enough to get them into the playoffs, and then you see what happens.
Right. So we'll dig in a little bit more now to the games in particular, but that was kind of the overarching thought at the top. Saturday's game, there isn't too much to say. You teased it earlier about how like there's no margin when you're facing Wheeler and Nola over the weekend, and the Braves had nothing for Zach Wheeler on Saturday. 6 hits, yes, that's not terrible, but they were all singles, 0 walks. The only threat the entire game was a Matt Olson. Basically, it was a home run robbery, not quite in the same way that Michael Harris had defensively in that same game, but it was worthy of a home run. It did not. It was caught over the wall, but that was really it. And Zach Wheeler is excellent. I thought it was kind of funny today that ESPN's broadcast was making it seem like he and Chris Sale were battling it out evenly for Cy Young when that's not really the case. But Zach Wheeler, as you and I have talked about for years now, is very, very good, and he had total control of the Braves on Saturday.
Yeah, the Braves just couldn't do a whole lot. They had a couple opportunities with runners on base, especially early. But again, man, I mean, when this team isn't hitting for power, they just really struggle to score. And there was no home runs on Saturday. There was just the one on Sunday. And more times than not, it's going to be tough for the Braves to win when that is the formula. And there's no shame in losing a Zach Wheeler start. Max Fried was not terrible. He wasn't like his A1 self either. I mean, 7 innings was strong for him. Did give up 5 hits and walked 4, which is a little uncharacteristic, and gave up 3 runs. And as we just said a couple of minutes ago, more times than not on good baseball teams, 3 runs over 7 innings from your starting pitcher, you take every single day of the week. And unfortunately, this lineup just could not do anything against Wheeler.
Yeah, that's the story. And Saturday was a very ho-hum loss. I felt nothing in terms of like animosity, angst, any of that on Saturday. Like it was one of those games that happens. That's kind of where I was on Saturday. Of course, that it's punctuated a little bit by the loss on Sunday to make things feel worse. But in a vacuum, it was a very normal game. Just a little bit of flailing on offense. The only thing that I did tease it a second ago, but that Michael Harris catch we should at least talk about for a second as one of the bright spots of the weekend. That was I don't want to overdo it, Scott. Was that an all-timer? That was a pretty absurd catch by Michael Harris, and the entirety of baseball was like, whoa, what is going on here with this play that he made?
Yeah. I've been watching Braves baseball that I can like remember for maybe 20 years now. I tweeted in the moment that was easily a top 5 defensive play. I don't know where it ranked on your personal list, Brad. And there have been some incredible moments. When Drelton Simmons blessed us with some incredible defense at shortstop over the years. Andrew Jones is an all-timer in center field. And then, of course, a handful of other moments come to mind too. But on the run with his back to the baseball, falling over, or just about falling over the center field wall. I mean, I shouted in my house. I think I scared the hell out of my wife because she was like, what? And I was like, oh my God. It was a remarkable catch by Michael Harris and even the Phillies. I mean, the guy who hit it tipped his cap. And I know Bryce Harper was mic'd up on the Sunday night game and was talking about just how unbelievable that was and how good Michael plays center field.
Yeah, not too much more to add. It's an audio medium, but it was a ludicrous play. People that are older than you and maybe even older than me were bringing up the Otis Nixon catch that made the highlight runs forever and ever in the early 90s as a comp. That's why I put out there. Obviously, we wish it would have happened in a win, and maybe it would have been more staying power. But that should be on highlights for a long time, and that was an awesome play by Michael Harris. We should talk about Sunday's game. Unfortunately, for everyone involved. Speaking of Michael Harris, he actually gave the Braves the lead on Sunday with a kind of a golf swing home run that I actually was surprised it left the yard with the way it went down, but it went over the fence. A 1-0 lead. The Braves nearly didn't add on to that at all. Whit Merrifield kind of hit into what was looking like a double play in the 4th inning. He ended up beating it out because he is very fast despite being like older than you, Scott. Not older than me, but older than you. But he can't hit all of a sudden. Whit Merrifield, I believe, is like one of his last 28. I think I'm looking at this right now. Is one of 24 coming into today. He went 0-3. Yeah, so he's one of his last 27 at the plate right now for Whit Merrifield.
Yeah.
Ooh. Tough scene.
Yeah, the regression monster has come for Whit. And I mean, what he's done over on the whole has been terrific.
Agreed.
But, sometimes the regression monster is a mean old beast and he'll rip you down. And I think if you're the Braves, you just have to hope that Whit balances things out a little bit and just gives them a little more steady production. I do think that you need to have Michael Harris in the leadoff spot and Jorge Soler batting second. Do you generally agree with that?
Yeah, I don't honestly. I would probably lead off Soler, but they did that for a while. They didn't seem to love it. But I sympathize. We're probably going to criticize Brian Snitker in a second. I sympathize. There is not a leadoff hitter on this team. So
Oh no.
Michael Harris does not inspire me at leadoff either. So it's like I have a hard time saying, yeah, do this for sure. But yeah, Merrifield probably shouldn't be there with how he's currently playing. Although he has probably the best like natural profile for it because he walks. That's what
Yeah.
he walks. He can run, and I don't really care about the running, but I know Brian Snitker probably does care about the speed. But he takes walks. Soler and Merrifield take walks, and that's why they're up there. But yeah, I don't love any of it to be honest. But Merrifield probably shouldn't be there if he's hitting 1 of 27 over a week.
So maybe the answer is then against right-handed pitching, you have Michael Harris up there, and against lefties, you have Soler or maybe Merrifield. I don't know. I mean, you're right. I mean, the
No
obvious
good
answer
answers.
is yeah, it should be Ronald Acuna Jr. doing his incredible things. I believe either today or yesterday was the 1 year anniversary of him doing the 40-40 club, and there was a video clip that circled, and it was like, man, I miss watching Ronald play baseball. But to talk about the offense as a whole on Sunday night, it wasn't as if they didn't have opportunities, including the ghost runner in the 10th and 11th innings.
Whew.
The Braves had the leadoff runner on 5 innings in a row. They had leadoff walks or singles in the 7th, in the 8th, and the 9th. Couldn't do anything with them. And then, of course, could not score the ghost runner in either extra inning. And that is just so unbelievably frustrating. And there was a bases loaded situation, which made me want to bang my head against the wall. And just, I mean, look, man, there are some really bad hitters in that lineup, especially when you have substituted some of them out for defense or pinch running or whatever they had to do tonight. But I mean, dear God, Brad, it was, I was just wanting to almost be put out of my misery because the offense was so bad tonight.
It was quite frustrating. You gave a bunch of good stats there. I will add one. They were 0 of 10 with running scoring position in the game, which is makes some sense if you watched it. Blown opportunities all the way around. In an effort to not make this podcast 90 minutes long in playoff style, we will not go through the entirety of the stretch run of this game. But the 9th inning, as you mentioned, is worth talking about. They loaded the bases with 1 out, with Matt Olson singling, and then back-to-back walks from Merrifield and Ramon Laureano, who's pinch hitting for Jared Kelenic. By the way, a great plate appearance. We should at least shout him out from Laureano following all of that. But the next batter was Orlando Arcia, who we should at least acknowledge. I mean, I'm with you. He's not been very good, but he did hit 2 home runs this week and has been better the last, I don't know, month and a half or something like that. But basically the worst approach you could possibly have is when a guy walks back-to-back batters to load the bases. What you don't want to do is go up there and swing at the first 3 pitches that you see. And that's what Arcia did. And none of them were great pitches. He just went up hacking. I don't know if he got too hot because he was getting booed lustily, as I think is the word that Dave O'Brien used. That was probably the accurate word. But no matter why he did it, that was about as bad of a plate appearance as you'll ever see.
Yeah. I at the risk of repeating everything you just said, Brad, I have no other takes. It was so bad in the moment. When a reliever has loaded the bases and has no idea where the baseball is going when it comes out of his hand, the only thing you should not do is hack away at every pitch you see. And that is what Orlando did. I believe the first pitch he fouled off and it was like a borderline strike. And then the next 2 weren't even in the zone. They were up and away. And then to do an infield pop-up is it's basically a strikeout in the eyes of the advanced metrics in terms of productivity. It just so bad and so frustrating. And I know Orlando has been a little better recently. He had the great game on Friday night, and we don't have to turn this into an off-season podcast, but they have to be better at shortstop next season. I don't care how they do it.
Yeah, we won't do that now, but you're 100% right. And yes, to back you up, I just looked it up. The first pitch of the plate appearances was in the strike zone, but it was on the fringe of it. And the second and third pitches were both clear not strikes. So tough scene there from Orlando. And then they had another chance right after that. Luke Williams, though, was up. And while you would love to pinch hit for Luke Williams, They couldn't because they had used everyone they possibly could have used other than Sean Murphy, and Snit just will never use his catcher, and they had no one to put at third base. So it had to be Luke Williams. Bad spot for that to happen. Actually had a pretty decent plate appearance, I thought. If that had been with one out, it would have scored a run. He flew out to relatively deep center field, but it didn't matter. That was the end of that. And then in extra innings, at the risk of avoiding play-by-play, they just did nothing. They at least in the 10th inning, they got no one. In fact, they didn't even move the runner in the 10th, which is like almost hard to do. And then in the 11th inning, they did. Olsen did his job. He got the runner to third base with one out, and then you get a ground ball by d'Arnaud that was kind of not in the greatest spot in the world. You got a slow runner at third base in Ozuna, who again they can't take out because they have no way to run for him. And Merrifield strikes out, and that is the end of that.
Yeah, all the substitutions late, especially doing things like taking Jorge Soler out in a tie game.
That's what I don't get. If they had been winning, I would have totally understood that. But
sure, of course.
I had to make sure that I had that right, because I was like, wait, did they take him out in a tie game in the 8th inning for defense when he's like, is he the second best hitter on the team right now? I think he third best.
Oh yeah, probably third
best hitter. Sorry, I forgot about Mendelson for a second. He's been really good lately. But yeah, certainly not no lower than third. And I know he's bad defensively. He's awful. Don't get me wrong. But man, if you're winning, I get it. But that hurt them. Somebody, I can't remember who it was now, so my apologies. This is just want to throw this at you without any context. It felt like a Freddie Gonzalez game.
Oh man,
because Freddie used to overmanage like crazy. Like he would just do stuff. He just smashed buttons, and it felt like that was what Snit did in the entirety of the later portion of this game. Like he used the entire bench. Some of them were obvious decisions. Like I was fine with hitting Laureano for Kelenic against the lefty, for instance. That's the stuff that you can go ahead and do. But when you don't have a lot of depth right now, it just was not the best performance.
Yeah, probably need to be a little more selective with your decisions. I mean, even, maybe we'll talk now about Spencer Schwellenbach in the 6th inning that went sideways, but, even bringing in Dylan Lee and then removing him from the game after only 3 pitches.
Why does he hate Dylan Lee? Why does Snit hate Dylan Lee? I'm kidding, but I'm also not kidding, because they just, Lee and Bummer, and this is not new ground for us, but Snit just does not, for whatever reason, trust Dylan Lee or Aaron Bummer. And I don't understand why.
I don't either. I mean, I genuinely, I was tweet storming the other night. Imagine that. And I've never done that. And, it's like Aaron Bummer, what more do these two lefties need to do to gain some trust by the manager? I mean, they have been statistically, this isn't even just our opinions. Like statistically speaking, these have been 2 of the best left-handed relievers in Major League Baseball this season. And it feels like it's pulling teeth in order for either of them to get multiple innings of work or leverage. I guess Dylan Lee got a big spot tonight, but even pulling Aaron Bummer in the 11th for Grant Holmes, who decided another fastball down the middle to Nick Castellanos was a good idea.
With 2 strikes.
Yeah, I mean, it is so unbelievably frustrating. And I mean, this was a bad weekend for Brian Snitker. Let's be clear.
It was. It was not good, and we're trying not to do every single decision, but maybe we'll just do it a roundabout way. Back to Schwellenbach, because we talked about the offensive failures throughout the game. Schwellenbach was awesome for the most part, right? So he throws 5 2/3. He gets chased after giving up 2 runs to tie the game in the 6th. The only thing that he didn't do in this game was miss bats, and I guess that's kind of where you could sort of nitpick it, is that he didn't miss bats, and that kind of led to some bad luck going against him in the 6th inning. The Bryce Harper 64-mile-an-hour flare that lands right inside the left field line with 2 outs was like the all-time alarm bell. Like, oh, this is about to go bad. And then, of course, Castellanos, who always kills everyone, ties the game. I'll ask you this. Did you in the moment think about the Braves taking Schwellenbach out of the game? Because this is a discussion that was happening online both during and after.
I would have left Schwellenbach in. What would you have done?
I didn't think that for me, I would not have taken him out. I thought it was closer than some people did. Like, just to be fair, so we killed Snit on Thursday, right? It was a different situation because Charlie had thrown like 20 more pitches, I think. And as much as I love Charlie, the current baseline of Charlie is lower than the current baseline of Schwellenbach, which matters. But I will also say it was the 3rd time through the order, and it was the top of the order, and it's a really good top of the order for Philly. So if you want to tell me that you would have taken him out, I will not argue with you. I think that would have been totally fine. I will also say that Swelly finished with 82 pitches, didn't really show any signs of slowing down, and even the game tying hit and the hit before that were not well struck. Like he didn't get rocked in that inning at all. So this is one where there is some nuance. Like I do think that the more like analytically driven folks that I tend to lean that way anyway, we're like, hey, take him out third time in the order. And if you want to be firm about that, I do get it. I was fine leaving him in, and I think in the moment I was not thinking take him out, take him out like I was on Thursday.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. And I mean, I think it was just a real genuine bummer that the game finished the way it did for Schwellenbach.
Yeah.
Two
was awesome.
I mean, he was fantastic. Not only was Schwellenbach fantastic tonight, but this was also the third time that he has started against the Phillies this season, including his start a week ago. I mean, that's really tough to do for a bunch of good veteran hitters in the Philly lineup to see Schwellenbach for 15 innings and maybe 9 or 10 plate appearances apiece. I mean, that's really impressive what he was able to do tonight. And in the sixth, he got 2 outs on 5 pitches, and then a good piece of hitting from Trey Turner. And then very unfortunately, a 1-2 pitch off the plate that Bryce Harper bloops down the line. And then 0-2, he gets up on Castellanos. You know, as you pointed out, it wasn't exactly a rocket into the gap. It was just kind of a curveball that backed up, and Castellanos got his bat around on it. Sure, you would have loved if Spencer would have buried a slider there and gotten the strikeout, and then who knows how the rest of the game would have played out. But to come full circle, he was very, very good, and really, I had no issue with leaving him out there for the 6th inning because A, it happened so fast, but B, righty on righty, 80 pitches, and he had run into really no drama before then. It was a apples to oranges situation from Charlie Morton a couple nights ago.
Yeah, I mean, biggest start of his life, unequivocally. National TV, Phillies, in Philly, pitched really well. He's been great all year long. We've lauded him enough, but man, he was really good, and not his fault at all, because to bring things full circle on 2 different fronts from earlier in the podcast, you shouldn't be in a position where you have to be perfect to win a game, and they were asking to be perfect. And then also, you just, as you were saying that, all the names you just named is a reminder of the talent disparity one more time. Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos is not a threesome the Braves have right now. That's who tied the game against the Braves and then ultimately beat them at the end.
Yeah, and I mean, this just felt like for the Phillies, it felt like a bigger series for the Phillies in the sense of just their energy was better. And I'm sure they're feeding off their crowd and everything, and it's a great home field advantage. They've been very, very good in that ballpark. But, you know, the Phillies have talked openly, especially in spring training, about they had a goal, like an active team goal to dethrone the Braves, kind of a why not us, why can't we win the division? And it felt like this weekend, for many, many reasons, was kind of the tipping point in that effort. And, we'll have to see how the final 4 weeks go. But credit to the Phillies, who did a much better job of executing this week than the Braves did.
Certainly. One more thing I have to ask you on the process side of things. What did you make? I know we kind of talked about it earlier in the podcast very briefly, but the decision to go to Holmes in the middle of the Aaron Bummer experience in the, what was the 11th inning, 10th inning?
Yeah.
11th inning.
Yeah.
So I will say this. It was not as universal as the Morton thing, but I did a little bit of polling before we started the podcast from Phillies people, from non-Braves people, and it was kind of the same reaction. Like, I don't understand why the Braves did that. Grant Holmes, I will acknowledge, is better than people probably realize he is nationally, because he's been good this year, but he just gave up a home run to Castellanos earlier in the series, and the guy behind Castellanos, respectfully, is not Castellanos, and they had a base open, so they could have just, even if they were terrified of Bummer facing Castellanos, you could have just pitched around him.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. I would have had Bummer face Castellanos and just pitch him carefully. And I mean, Castellanos will expand the zone. He has one of the highest swing rates of anybody in baseball. So the fact that you, A, took Bummer out of the game, and B, Grant Holmes it was almost like a picture perfect replica from a couple nights ago. a fastball right in the middle of the plate that Castellanos did not miss. And
middle with 2 strikes to Nick Castellanos, and for all the memes, like he just destroys that pitch. Like I don't.
oh yeah,
It's just
yeah, it's just it was a I mean, I kind of thought, I can't remember if it was the 10th or the 11th, but somebody on Philly had a blooper down the right field line to the middle of nowhere, and it went foul by like maybe half an inch.
oh yeah.
I
No,
mean,
it was right before. I mean, also Schwarber hit a 111-mile-an-hour absolute rocket right at Michael Harris. So the Braves did have some positive fortune earlier than this, but
yeah,
it kind of ran out at that moment.
yeah. So, I mean, a deflating way to lose, a
Indeed.
painful loss on Sunday, a painful loss on Thursday. Just, it felt like the Braves left some meat on the bone this weekend. And at the very least, you would have hoped for 2 wins to split the series.
Yes, and to leave it there, and we'll get into sort of our sign off thoughts on little roster stuff and the schedule. But you said it earlier, tough one for Brian Snitker over the weekend, tough one for the Braves in general. Division certainly in peril, and playoff run now is no long. It's not. It was never a lock in the last couple of weeks, but even looking a little bit less likely than it was only a few days ago. A couple of news and notes nuggets before we get out of here. Former Hammer Territory guest Buster Olney of ESPN, actually on the broadcast tonight, said on the positive side that he is hearing that there is, quote, confidence that Austin Riley will be back closer to the 6-week timetable. If you remember this, the Braves announced when he went down, it was 6 to 8 weeks projection. If 6 weeks is the closer projection right now, and Buster is plugged in, this is kind of a bit of funny synergy. The last game of the regular season is exactly, as you said before, 6 weeks from today. So if that actually is true, that would mean that maybe Riley can be ready for the playoffs if they exist. It's a small update, but given what we said before about the importance of having one of your absolute stars, and that's what Austin Riley is. He might be rusty and all that stuff, but I think that we can probably agree you'd rather have him in there than anybody else.
Yeah, I think it's obviously encouraging that Buster, who is very keyed in, felt that he could report that on Sunday night. And, for Austin, even if he could maybe, with a couple days left in the regular season, be able to do some simulated game work and see live pitching. I think in a postseason series, it would be, man, you would be asking a lot for Austin to come back and just immediately go into a postseason series without any kind of live action. But I mean, I would take a recovering from a broken hand Austin Riley over Gio Urshela, quite obviously. So we'll see. But I guess the fact that as the calendar flips to September, there is at least somewhat of a chance that Austin will be back for the playoffs is good news, and we'll just have to see how he progresses.
Yeah, you got 4 weeks from today, basically, because Austin went down 2 weeks ago today. He's got 4 more weeks if that's the correct timetable, and you never want to hold to being that firm, but I agree. It was an encouraging report from Buster. The roster expanded. It's September 1st, of course, so you got to add 2 players. We talked about this a little bit last week, but Eli White was the no-brainer position player, base runner, defender, all that stuff. There was a lot of reaction about the pitcher that the Braves added because it's not Daysbel Hernandez. There's kind of 2 prongs here. Number one is that Daysbel Hernandez is not as good as people want to think that he is probably right now. And also John Brebbia was the guy that they brought in. He was actually way by Chicago and signed. Kind of a project in maybe the pitcher version of Ramon Laureano or one of these guys that they're kind of buying super low on and trying to rehab. But what did you make of all this? Because I think the reaction was largely negative from Braves fans that I saw.
Yeah, guys. I mean, I like Daysbel, but there's this notion that he's Craig Kimbrell in his prime or Mariano Rivera in his prime. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Daysbel as a possible power arm. The fact that he's been up and down, I mean, I think it says something that he has not been able to get a call up and has not been able to stick. And he is a guy who has had command issues. He has walked a lot of batters with Gwinnett. In his last 2 appearances, Daysbel had 4 walks, a wild pitch, and a hit by pitch. So, again, everybody was surprised by Brebbia because he wasn't even known to be in the organization before the Braves made the move. He was not great with the White Sox, although that is such a dumpster fire of a franchise right now. I don't blame a veteran for maybe not being able to figure things out there right now. It's worth a flyer. I would like to think that Brebbie will be able to get a couple of games in this week and see if he's a possible arm. But if it just isn't good for, first couple of appearances for him, you can obviously move on without any harm or damage. And then presumably it would be day spell and they would give him an audition before a possible postseason picture.
Yeah, that's the key point there, is that there's nothing that stops the Braves from bringing up Daysbell later on, and it's a low cost, really zero cost flyer. And Hernandez has a FIP around 4 in Gwinnett this year, 5.5 walks per 9. Like, he's not some dominant pitcher, so I understand it was surprising, but not a huge deal in my opinion for sure. The other thing was more of a feel good story, maybe a super buy low again, is that Tyler Matzek's back. Now it's a minor league deal. He's in Gwinnett. Snit had some positive stuff to say, as you might imagine, for Tyler Matzek, a fan and organizational favorite. He was waived by the Giants post-trade that he was involved in, the Jorge Soler trade, of course. I expect nothing from Tyler Matzek this year, but maybe, they could find something in him. And, worst case scenario, he's just around and they like him. So no downside.
Yeah, good to have Tyler back. I mean, obviously, that is a very deep connection for him and his family and what he was able to do here. In terms of an impact this season, I'm still not holding my breath. I think it would be quite a surprise, but you do keep him around. And I mean, God forbid something happened to Dylan Lee or Aaron Bummer, then you at least have, I guess, a small possibility that you could call up Matzek to be the second lefty out of the bullpen.
Oh boy, I don't want that to happen. All respect to Tyler Matzek, I don't want that to happen.
Look, man, I mean, his health, for multiple years now. I mean, really since 21. His health just hasn't cooperated, but
no,
good to have Tyler around. And if he wants to do another, no money, prove it kind of deal for next season, or maybe a split contract, sure, why not? The guy's a hero, and you can do worse if he's like the number 4 lefty in your organization.
We are on the same page there. All right, from here, and we'll sign off. The Braves are inexplicably off on Monday, which is Labor Day. I know what you said in the document that we have shared here, but I don't think you like this, and I don't like it either, Scott. Why are they not playing tomorrow? Brutal.
I don't know. I mean, come on, guys. There's Labor Day. Everyone's off, or a lot of folks are off. We couldn't figure out a way to have a baseball game tomorrow. I don't know. I mean, maybe the bigger picture is I am sure the Braves, like the players, are happy to have the day off tomorrow. It's probably for the best that the team isn't playing, because they will not be getting into Atlanta until very late tonight. But no game on Monday. But then okay, we try to be nuanced with expectations in series. The Braves need to sweep the Rockies, and I've rarely said on the history of these podcasts.
You're gonna make me do it, Scott.
I know.
Do my bit. I'm not gonna be able to do
it. This team is currently 2-4 this season against the Chicago White Sox and the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah, you can't have that.
There is no excuse for that. I know it's baseball. I know crap happens. Trying to keep it family friendly here late into Sunday night, but okay. You must win the series. How about that?
Yeah, we agree on that part, and part of that's because of the way that this series went. The reference that we always made last year was that the Braves lost the series to the A's, and the A's were the worst team in the league, and they lost the series to the A's. So stuff happens, but you're right that given what we've just witnessed for 4 games, and 3 of the 4 in particular, what you can't afford after an off day is to come home and lose the series to the Rockies. And not even because of the vibes, because of just the results. Like, you have to bank wins, because making the playoffs is far, far, far from a lock. Are they favored to make the playoffs? I think yes, but they have a 1-game lead on the Mets. And even later this week, the Blue Jays are not very good. They sold off a little bit. They're under 500. Like, if you want to go beyond making single games that much more important, you got 6 games at home this week against teams that you are better than. Even this version of the Braves, this battered, injury-plagued version of the Braves, you cannot go worse than 4-2 this week. You just can't. Yeah. You can't afford to do it given the schedule and what's to come. Because after that, you go to Washington. You play the Dodgers for 4 games. Yes, it's at home, but that's the Dodgers. They're really good. You go to Cincinnati. You got to play the Mets at the end of the year, and then the Royals are pretty good too. So this is your easiest stretch of the remaining season by a lot.
Yeah, no excuses. If this team is going to make the playoffs, they have to take advantage of the soft schedule when it presents itself. And that's something they really have not done this season. They've been poor against really look at like the bottom two teams in any division, and they've struggled overall. I mean, it's just what it is. They've been great. The Braves have been great against the good teams. I actually think the Braves might have the best record in the National League against teams above 500. But what makes it even more frustrating is that they will have letdowns against the Rockies and the A's and the White Sox, and pick your bad team of choice. But yes, 3 very winnable games against the Colorado Rockies, and then 3 more against the Blue Jays, who are just pretty much out of it and facing a rebuild. But you have to, especially with 6 games at home. Hopefully, Truist is pretty full and supporting the team, and let's hope for a better week ahead after a very, very frustrating weekend in Philadelphia.
Yes, and they are at home. That makes it a big difference too. Like, I'm actually someone who probably downplays home field advantage, but it does matter. And while they do have 1 week later on where they play the Reds and the Marlins back to back, 2 teams that are not exactly great either. The Marlins are brutal, but those are on the road, and that makes it a little bit more difficult. So I stand firm in my conviction. This is the easiest two series stretch remaining on the calendar for the Braves, and winning some games this week would be helpful. Speaking of that, the pitching matchups are out for the first series. It's Sale on Tuesday, followed by Morton and Lopez. The Braves have a very clear pitching advantage in all 3 games because the Rockies are not very good. But even Charlie, who has only been okay this year, has the advantage on Wednesday. Sale, of course, always has the advantage right now, and then Lopez has been awesome recently since he came back from the injury. So no excuses, like you said, and we'll have full coverage of the week to come, and hopefully a little bit more upbeat on those podcasts. Scott, have we covered the gamut of the weekend? Am I going to be able to release you to go do something else for Labor Day?
Yeah, I think we have done our due diligence to talk about, again, just a bummer of a weekend. But hey, it is September. The Braves are in the playoff picture. And God, let's hope that this team can figure it out over these last 4 weeks and hold off the Mets and hold off a screaming hot Chicago Cubs, not the White Sox. The Cubs are playing very good baseball.
The White Sox, hey, Scott, I got to be honest with you. The White Sox are not very good. I got to be real about that. The White Sox are the worst team of all time, maybe. So
the Chicago White Sox have won 31 baseball games. Guess who God. 2 of those were against?
Okay, stat of the night before we sign off, because it's almost midnight Eastern. The White Sox are currently 39 games behind the 4th place team in the AL Central.
Yeah, pretty bad, Bob.
Okay, one more time, just to make sure that everybody understood that. There are 5 teams in the AL Central. They are 39 games worse than the 4th best team in the division. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. I think they've lost 10 in a row. They're 31. Yeah. They're 31 and 107, and you're right. 2 of those wins against the Braves. That is absolutely wild stuff. Okay, back where we were as we were signing off this podcast. Scott, where can folks find all of your musings? You were talking earlier about how you were firing a tweet storm because that's so out of character for you. Where can folks find that?
I am at Scott Coleman 55, and please, everyone, do follow the site at Hammer Territory. Brad mentioned it at the top of the show. Please also hit the subscribe and follow button on YouTube, which would help us out greatly. That's something that management has asked us to do. So if you are so willing, thank you very much. And
we also might go to video at some point. You never know. Everybody, maybe. I'm not going to guarantee it, but I'm just saying you might see our shiny faces at some point if you are a subscriber on YouTube. I'm not saying it's going to be anytime soon, but it's possible. And just do us a favor every once in a while. That's all we ask for this free podcast. It's a free podcast. It's like 4 episodes a week, and we definitely appreciate the support. Anything else to plug, Scott?
Nope. Hope everybody out there has a fantastic Labor Day, and let's hope when the Braves take the field on Tuesday, they play much better than these last couple of nights.
That is an understatement, to be sure. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. Hopefully you're listening to the show somewhere, driving somewhere fun or something on Monday. We made it to the end of the podcast. You do have a rooting interest. If you are a Braves fan on Monday, you want to watch baseball, root against the Mets. The Mets play the Red Sox. It's a Monday night game, and that's one to circle because you want the Boston Red Sox to win that game. That'll impact the Braves. Please subscribe to the podcast, as we've already asked you to do, but one more time, at Hammer Territory everywhere you find your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, etc. Ratings, reviews, please, please, please tell your friends about the podcast as well. And for Scott, that's all we have on today's podcast, and we'll see you all later on this week.